Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Zabe, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. Alright children, in this video we're continuing our series Dinosaurs in the Bible, and today we're looking at Leviathan. So Leviathan is mentioned multiple times throughout scripture, but one of the most important places it gets mentioned is in the book of Job, where Job is discussing with God. And God is talking about the fact that Job is an ordinary human that can't do all these great things that God has done, that God created the heavens, that God created the earth, that God was there in the beginning, that God created Behemoth, the big dinosaur, and that God created Leviathan. Now, some people think Leviathan is just like a crocodile. However, that doesn't really fit the description of Leviathan in the Bible. So, Leviathan is mentioned throughout the Bible in multiple places, and there he's called a twisting and fleeing and sliding and swimming serpent. Now, serpent doesn't necessarily mean snake. Serpent is just a Latin version of the word reptile. So it's like a reptile kind of creature. And it's referred to as a twisting, turning, swimming, sliding creature. Now, that could possibly be a crocodile, except in the book of Psalms, it's also mentioned that Psalm 104, the psalmist is talking about the ships sailing on the sea, and the psalmist talks about Leviathan swimming along in the sea and playing in it. So this shows us that Leviathan couldn't have been a crocodile, because crocodiles aren't normally living out in the middle of the sea. Also in the book of Job, God says that Leviathan is unable to be caught with a hook or a rope. And he's described as having big, thick skin and scales like shields that harpoons and fishing spears cannot pierce. But we can catch crocodiles with hooks and ropes, and we can easily pierce them and spear them. Leviathan is also described as being able to breathe fire, something that crocodiles could not do. So obviously, Leviathan is some type of dinosaur. And there are many different proposals for what Leviathan is. Some people think he may have even been an amphibious dinosaur, like a spinosaur. However, the purpose of the book of Job is that God is describing to Job the largest land creature, Behemoth, and the largest water creature, Leviathan. And so Leviathan wouldn't have been an amphibious dinosaur like the spinosaur. He would have been some kind of a swimming water creature. Many people, like myself, like to think that maybe Leviathan was like a chronosaur or a mosasaur. That's this type of dinosaur. There is, however, kind of only one problem with that theory at this moment. Leviathan is meant to be the largest of all the water creatures, and yet to this date, the blue whale is actually the largest water creature we've ever found. However, the blue whale is not Leviathan. He doesn't have scales, he can be pierced with a harpoon, and he doesn't breathe fire. So therefore, either Leviathan isn't actually the biggest water creature, or we just haven't come across any fossilized Leviathans yet. Or maybe we've come across fossilized Leviathans, like the mosasaurs and chronosaurs, that are just smaller ones of his species, and maybe there's bigger Leviathans out there that we haven't found fossils of yet. Now, some other interesting things about Leviathan is, where is Leviathan found? Now, Leviathan seems to swim amongst the ships in the Mediterranean Sea, but also in Psalm 74, God uses Leviathan as a metaphor for the Egyptians. God says he crushed the heads of Leviathan. Leviathan didn't have multiple heads. what he means there is referring to defeating the Egyptians and casting them into the Red Sea. But there God also connects Leviathan not only with the kingdom of Egypt, but with the Red Sea. So it's also possible that Leviathan swam in both the Mediterranean Sea and in the Red Sea. And that's our Bible story for today, children. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye, and God bless.